All right, so we're working on Natalie here today. As you can see, she's got pretty dense texture of hair, quite a bit of it. A little bit of a grown out kind of shag, just a layered haircut. We're gonna do a nice kind of tight bob. It's gonna start in the front and work our way through to the back. So I just did a natural part, right off where she naturally parts her hair, and then just divided the front sections from the back, from the kind of low crown to the mastoid. Just taking a long diagonal back section and then just working a line, cutting in my fingers. You'll notice that my finger angle is kind of tilted down towards the chin, so it's going to get shorter as we work around to the back. So the shape will be triangular. Just wanted to work through it in a different manner than starting in the back and working to the front. So as I come around to the back, just following that same guideline, working through into the nape and creating a nice, strong triangular line. Section 2 above it gets brought down using section 1 as the guide. You'll notice the elevation is slightly higher. That's something that will persist through the rest of the haircut. The elevation will come to this point for the duration of the haircut. The reason we elevate like that in these areas is because then we can avoid having to do a tension release on the ear, and it creates just the slightest little bevel of graduation. It's a little harder to see through the back, but we're still working off the round of the head. So we're not pushing down onto the nape, onto the skin. It's bringing the fingers off just a little bit and allows for the hair to kind of build up the weight as we move up the head. Section 3, same thing. Making sure that my grooming is really strong, keeping everything nice and tight so I'm not getting in my own way. Elevating just slightly higher this time. Right around the face, wanted it to be looser, but just using the previous section as a guide. Coming in through the back now, same thing. Just bringing the elevation up slightly, just enough to kind of build up weight as we move up the head. Body position here is really important, so every section that I take, every time I cut, I take a slight step to the left or turn the chair. That way I'm maintaining a nice, consistent angle with my fingers and with the cutting line. All right, section 4, same thing. Really maintaining my grooming. Starting to get into less hair here. Pulling everything down, elevating, using the previous section as a guide. Cutting along that same line. After I cut, I'll take a step to my left so I can work around the head shape and maintain consistent cutting line throughout the whole haircut. Really just making sure my grooming is correct, that I'm keeping everything clean. This helps me work through the haircut more efficiently. So bringing everything down in the back right off the round of the head, not pushing down into the nape. Keeping that nice consistent shape and tension as we work around through the other side. All right, so the last section on the top on this side here. So bringing everything down, using the previous section as a guide. Same thing, maintaining consistent body position, taking steps around every time I take a new section. I'm just kind of setting the line in, visually checking it. So on the last section through the right side, on the back especially, you'll notice that we work all the way around into the opposite side of the haircut. Now we're going to come back the other direction when we start the other side, and they'll kind of crisscross, and that's just a way for us to kind of cross-check our work as we're doing the haircut. So opposite side. So I'm just looking, making sure that I'm maintaining that consistent line and just aiming for the line that connects through to the back. It's a little bit more difficult on this side because of the fact that I'm cutting towards the front, but starting in the front, if that makes sense. So you just have to kind of work smaller sections and work your way around to connect through to the previous line in the back. Section 2, long diagonal section from the front all the way into the back. And you can see where it connects there, and what we're trying to do is just maintain that connection. Really clean sectioning, not working too big, consistent size the whole time. Elevation a little higher. Every time I cut, I'm taking a small step to the right now. And just connecting through to the previous line in the back. Section 3, same thing, all the way through, front to back. What I like about working this way is it kind of creates an immediate gratification of seeing the haircut be done. So when you start in the front, the client automatically sees what the haircut's going to look like. Plus, it's just good to challenge yourself from time to time to make sure that you can maintain balance and consistency when you're working through it a different way. So those long diagonal sections, working all the way around from the front to the back. Elevation just a little bit higher. My cutting line, my finger angle is consistent. I'm always keeping in mind where I'm going so that I connect through to the previous side. Last little bit here. Just bringing everything down, connecting to the line, making sure that everything's consistent from the front to the back. I'm just getting any little stragglers that might have been left. So there's the complete wet shape. I'm just going through and checking consistency, making sure the balance is good on both sides. Feel pretty good about it. So starting with the blow dry, just using a flat wrapping technique. Keeping everything really small to the head, so not using any lift or elevation when I'm blow drying. Keeping everything flat, working off the natural part. So not taking anything away from where it lives. Keeping everything in the same spot that the haircut's going to be completed in. So working everything forward, and then bringing it down, working it back, and then bringing it down. This helps to break down the growth pattern in the haircut. Any little cowlicks or anything will get taken care of with this. That way when we go through and do the refinement, that it's nice and smooth and consistent. This haircut is the style, so I'm not really working on anything trying to style the hair so much as just keep everything nice and controlled, so that way whenever we do the refinement, I know exactly what I'm going to get. All right, so when we come into do the dry cutting here, starting in the front, I'm really just wanting to create like a nice kind of graphic line that opens up the face. So anything that sits over that front hairline, I just kind of comb forward, and then I'm just chipping into it a little bit at a time. Not really taking too much off. Just want to open up the face, draw attention to the eyes and the cheekbone. Worked down at first, now working up. Just kind of cutting the hair both ways, so that way you're not leaving anything behind. Kind of tuck everything that you don't want cut behind the ear, just so you can see what you want to work on more. Just kind of combing it back into place. The thing with refinement is it's always about kind of moving the hair around, seeing how it falls, and then making those adjustments again. You could essentially do this for hours. It just depends on the final result that you want. So right there, using the back of the comb just to kind of press the hair down a little bit. Just put a little bit of tension on it so that way it doesn't jump around when I'm cutting it. So same thing on the opposite side. I've just combed the hair over. I'm just working with the tips of the scissors, working my way down and then working my way back up. Just want to take away a little bit of that excess around the temple area. Like I said, really open up the eyes, draws attention to the eyes, to the cheekbone, to the parts of the face that we really want to accentuate. Using the back of the comb just to keep the hair from jumping too much, gives me just a slight bit more control. And again, it's just refining, tucking the hair behind the ear, working up along that edge until I get it correct. So going in and refining on the line through the bottom now. I don't want it to be super strong, so I'm not going to laser it in. I really just want to go in and chip into it. Anything that looks a little lumpy, kind of take that away. But I like it to be loose and kind of free. So just making sure that there's nothing that jumps out that's too out of place. But really I'm just going in and chipping with the tips of the scissors, really taking away a good amount of the bulkiness through there. Going in with my scissors over the skin, taking off that excess neck hair. Here we get into the sides. I'm just taking a section, holding it horizontal, and then kind of dusting the ends as I work up the hair. Just helps the graduation to kind of sit in a little tighter to the head. Okay, same thing on the opposite side, just working that line. Just connecting it in through to the back. Not necessarily going for perfection here, just want to get it to where it's consistent throughout. So whenever the hair swings, whenever it falls down to its natural falling position, that the line is consistent all the way through. Just using the tips of the scissors, being pretty aggressive, working in pretty deep to that line. Taking off that neck hair. Working around the back, making sure the back connects to the front really well on each side, and then the same thing. Just dusting those ends, elevating the hair as I cut. It just helps to get the graduation to kind of slide in a little better to the head shape. So going through and elevating now and just point cutting. Not being too aggressive with it. I don't want to change the shape up hardly at all. I just want to break it up a little bit, so that way it's got a little bit of movement through the top, because we did bring everything down to a pretty low elevation. Going back the opposite way and just kind of loosening some of that up, I think will give the haircut a little bit more life. Bringing everything across now through the front. Really want to create like an openness through the fringe. So just bringing everything across, cutting it the opposite way of that it's going to fall, so it'll swing through to the other side. And then I'm going to go back and do the same thing on the opposite side. The reason for that is we want to create the option of being able to wear it both ways. So just bringing everything across, working away. So it almost creates a little point through the middle. So using the texture spray, using quite a bit. That's what I love about the product, is that it doesn't really build up in the hair. And then just going to kind of move the hair around. See if there's any position that it falls into that it doesn't really look that great. I always want to make sure that there's options for the client. She can wear it to the left, to the right, or down the center if she wants. That, you know, if she's walking down the street, it's swinging around, that no matter where it falls, it's always going to look good. So here's one kind of look. Here's another. It'll push back off the face a little bit more. So it's just very loose, very wearable. Hope you guys like it.